Commander Kale Rin moved through the ruined battlefield with a calm that almost seemed unnatural. Smoke curled around the twisted remains of what had once been proud human tanks, now shattered and blackened. The ground beneath his boots shook from distant explosions, and the air smelled of burning fuel and alien plasma. Around him, his squad of soldiers ducked and ran, carrying wounded comrades or dragging heavy weapons, their faces tight with fear. Every soldier knew they were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched, but somehow Kale's presence kept panic from spreading. Reports from the human command center had been grim. The Supreme Commander had ordered a tactical withdrawal, admitting for the first time in months that the alien advance was overwhelming. Entire planets had fallen. Colonies had been wiped out. Humanity's grip on the frontier was slipping. Still, Kale had never lost hope. He had spent his life preparing for moments like this, studying tactics and learning to think 2 moves ahead. Even if the odds were terrible, Kale trusted that careful action could still turn disaster into survival. Far above the battlefield, twin suns scorched the horizon, casting a strange orange glow over the ruins. Through the haze, a massive figure emerged. The alien queen, enormous and terrifying, her exoskeleton shimmering like liquid metal, moved with an elegance that made her appear almost regal. Her multiple limbs carried weapons of unimaginable power, yet she seemed to move with a grace that belied her deadly intent. Her eyes, dark pools that could see through the bravest soldier's thoughts, scanned the battlefield. Countless human troops had already been annihilated under her command, yet something about Kale made her pause. He was just another human, ordinary in appearance, with a thin frame and unremarkable features. But she noticed his posture. He did not flinch when explosions erupted nearby, nor did he cower when her minions advanced. He moved with a careful precision that suggested intelligence, but also courage. She had dismissed thousands like him before, but this one seemed different, though she could not yet name why. Kale's squad pressed forward, moving between the debris of destroyed vehicles and collapsed buildings. Sergeant Myra Velen, his second-in-command, shouted over the noise, "Commander, the left flank is cut off." "We'll be trapped if we don't move now," Kale nodded, gesturing toward a narrow canyon that led away from the open field. "Lead them through there," he said. "Keep your heads down, don't engage unless necessary, focus on survival." Myra's eyes widened slightly. She knew Kale's orders often defied convention. Most officers would have chosen to fight to the last soldier rather than risk a retreat under alien fire. But Kale's strategy relied on patience, observation, and exploiting the enemy's miscalculations. Retreat was not weakness, it was calculated risk. As they moved, Kale's mind raced. He calculated the alien movements, the timing of patrols, and the trajectory of the distant artillery shells. He knew that the Supreme Commander's retreat order was the only way to prevent total annihilation, but he also sensed an unusual anomaly. The alien queen had paused. Several of her patrol units had shifted direction, as if avoiding his squad. There was no logical reason for this. She had commanded total destruction before, leaving nothing behind, yet she seemed hesitant, curious. Kale kept his eyes on the horizon, analyzing her movements. "They're watching us," he murmured to himself. Myra glanced at him. "Commander, all forces are supposed to be overwhelming us. Why aren't they pressing?" Kale shook his head slightly. "Something's different. Pay attention. The Queen doesn't usually hesitate. Stay sharp." The squad entered the canyon. Its walls were jagged, blackened from earlier bombardments, and the narrow path forced them to move single file. The echo of alien weapons firing somewhere behind them reminded them that the battle was far from over. Yet inside this narrow passage, they found a momentary reprieve. Kale led them forward, careful to avoid loose rocks that might betray their position. He moved silently, eyes flicking constantly to the top of the canyon walls. As they rounded a bend, Kale spotted a small group of alien scouts moving swiftly along the ridge above. Most soldiers would have opened fire immediately, but Kale held back. He observed their behavior, noting their spacing, their speed, and the subtle gestures between them. This was his world, analyzing patterns and exploiting weakness. He whispered instructions to his team. "Hold your fire, let them pass over. We'll use the rocks ahead as cover for the next movement." The scouts moved over the ridge, unaware that Kale and his soldiers were hiding mere meters below. Once they had passed, Kale allowed himself a small sigh. "We're not safe yet," he reminded Myra. But we're still moving. That's what counts. Myra nodded, eyes alert but trusting. Every soldier in his squad had survived multiple near-death situations under Kale's command, and each knew he possessed an almost uncanny sense of timing. Meanwhile, the alien queen observed from a distance, her attention locked on Kale. He was ordinary, no armor, no advanced weapons, no special enhancements. Yet she could not ignore the way he led his troops. There was something in his defiance, in his willingness to calculate risk and move deliberately despite danger, that drew her focus. Her instincts told her he was worth studying, though she had no explanation for why an ordinary human commanded such attention. Back at the human command ship orbiting above the battlefield, Supreme Commander Arlen monitored the retreat. His face was grim. The battle had been costly, and he knew the Queen's forces were relentless, yet he also knew Kale's squad had survived where many others had not. "All units maintain formation. Evacuate wounded first," Arlen ordered. His voice carried the weight of command, a mixture of fear and hope. Even he could sense that Kale's small unit was doing something extraordinary. On the surface, Kale's squad reached a natural cliff that overlooked a valley. Below, alien patrols were scouring the ruins for survivors. Kale crouched behind a jagged rock, surveying the area. His mind raced through options. Retreat along the valley floor was too dangerous. They would be easily spotted and mowed down. Climbing the cliffs would be exhausting and slow. Then he noticed something, an abandoned alien transport, partially destroyed, its hatch hanging open. It was risky, but it offered cover and a potential route out. "Everyone, follow me quietly," Kale whispered. His team moved as one, careful not to make a sound. They approached the transport, and Kale signaled Myra to cover their rear. A stray alien drone hovered nearby, scanning the ground. Kale's pulse quickened. He knew that one wrong move would alert the Queen's forces, yet he also understood timing. The drone moved in predictable loops. He counted the rotations, then signaled. They dashed forward, using rocks and debris as cover. The drone's sensors swept over them but did not detect movement. Inside the transport, Kale examined the controls. It was an alien craft, unfamiliar in every way, but he had learned enough from previous encounters to understand basic operation. He activated the power system, and the craft hummed to life. The interior lights flickered, casting an eerie glow on the squad's faces. Myra's eyes were wide. "Commander, do you think this will work?" Kale's lips curved in a small, determined smile. "It has to. We have no choice." Outside, the Queen's forces continued to search. She moved with confidence, sensing the humans retreat but unaware of their exact path. Something in the human commander intrigued her. He had survived against impossible odds so far. That was not typical. She adjusted her position, wings spreading as she hovered above the battlefield. Her voice echoed faintly in the minds of those nearby, commanding, calculating, patient. Kale's movements were visible even from this distance, and yet she could not predict his next step. Kale guided the squad through the alien transport, making adjustments to avoid detection. Every movement was tense, every sound amplified in the quiet of the craft's interior. His team followed without question, trusting him implicitly. They had no idea why he seemed so unshakable, but they knew the man had a track record of survival that defied logic. Hours later, the squad emerged from the canyon and moved toward a hidden docking bay, the alien transport offering a measure of protection. Kale's mind was already calculating the next steps, anticipating the Queen's reactions. He knew the Supreme Commander had ordered retreat, but Kale also understood that retreating blindly could lead to annihilation. He needed a plan that kept his team alive while testing the limits of their enemy's assumptions. As they approached the docking bay, Kale paused and looked back at the battlefield. The Queen's form was visible on the horizon, still watching. For the first time, Kale felt the weight of being noticed, not as a soldier among many, but as someone extraordinary in the eyes of an enemy who had dismissed countless humans before. He felt a spark of understanding. Perhaps this was the moment that could change everything. Perhaps ordinary was not enough. Perhaps it was precisely his humanity, his courage, his ability to think and act under pressure that made him dangerous. Myra noticed his gaze. "Commander, what are you thinking?" Kale turned, eyes steady. "I'm thinking that survival isn't just about following orders. It's about knowing the enemy, knowing yourself, and knowing when to act. And right now, we act." The squad moved into the docking bay, careful to stay out of sight. Kale took a deep breath, steadying himself. He did not know what would happen next, only that the Queen had seen him, that she had noticed something unusual, and that the Supreme Commander's orders might not be enough to keep them safe. Yet for the first time in days, Kale felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. Perhaps against the alien Queen they could do it again. As the alien suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the battlefield, Kale and his squad prepared for the next stage of survival. The Queen was watching. The humans were retreating, but the war was far from over, and Kale knew that ordinary soldiers could become extraordinary when pushed to the edge of extinction. And in the darkness, the alien Queen considered the human before her. He was ordinary. Until now, the docking bay was quiet, but it wasn't safe. Kale Rin and his squad huddled behind the alien transport, listening to the low hum of the machinery around them. Outside, the barren surface of Zythera Prime stretched endlessly, lit by the pale glow of distant stars and the dying rays of the twin suns. Smoke from the ruined battlefield still lingered, curling like phantom fingers across craters and shattered metal. Kale ran his fingers over the alien controls, trying to make sense of them. This was not human technology, yet it had a pattern, a logic he could grasp if he concentrated. Every lever, every panel, every flickering light was a potential tool for survival. He had no time to admire it, though. The alien Queen was still watching. Her forces patrolled in waves, scanning the surface relentlessly, seeking survivors. Kale knew that even a single misstep could bring destruction down on them. "Commander," Myra whispered, crouched beside him. "What now? The Supreme Commander wants us back to the main evacuation point, but this craft isn't exactly approved transport." Kale shook his head. "Approved or not, it's our only chance to move without being torn apart. Orders are to retreat, but retreat doesn't mean walking in front of enemy guns. We'll make our own path." The squad moved cautiously into the alien craft, their steps careful to avoid activating sensors. Kale instructed them to spread out, to minimize their signature, while he fiddled with the controls. He discovered that the ship had limited atmospheric support, enough for a small crew to survive for hours. Its propulsion was unusual but manageable. He could use it to travel across the surface faster than any human vehicle could. It was a gamble, and Kale knew it, but survival often required taking risks others would not dare. Outside, the alien Queen hovered above the battlefield. Her wings spread wide, creating a shadow over the terrain, a reminder of her dominance. She had observed Kale's squad throughout the retreat, noticing their unusual behavior. Most humans would have panicked, scattered, or been cut down by her forces long ago. But Kale moved with calculated precision, using terrain, timing, and improvisation to stay alive. She did not understand why, and that fact intrigued her. Kale's team boarded the alien craft, carrying their weapons and a few essential supplies. They stayed silent, following his lead as he attempted to understand the alien control panels. "I think I can get us airborne," he said finally, his voice calm but firm. Myra's eyebrows rose. "Airborne, here, against their patrols?" Kale nodded. "It's risky, but the canyon walls give us cover. Once we clear the ridge, we can move quickly before they react." Hours passed as he studied the craft, improvising adjustments to make it functional. Outside, alien patrols moved cautiously, scanning for signs of human escape. Kale observed patterns, noting patrol routes and timing. Every movement was precise, deliberate, and designed to give them the highest chance of survival. He whispered instructions to his team, guiding them silently toward the launch point. Finally, the moment came. Kale activated the propulsion system, and the craft lifted slightly, just enough to clear the debris of the canyon floor. The hum of alien technology filled the bay, mingling with the distant sounds of explosions. Myra gritted her teeth. "Hold on," Kale's lips curved in a small, determined smile. "We hold nothing, we move." The craft shot forward, skimming over the jagged terrain. Alien patrols spotted the movement and opened fire, but Kale had anticipated this. Using the craft's alien shields and the natural cover of the canyon walls, they dodged most of the attacks. The squad inside the craft held tight, following Kale's lead with unwavering trust. Every maneuver, every adjustment was calculated to avoid detection and maximize survival. As they cleared the canyon, Kale allowed himself a moment to observe the battlefield. The alien Queen's forces were regrouping, confused by the humans' sudden escape. It was unusual. Her forces had never hesitated before, never faltered in pursuit of prey. Kale's mind raced with possibilities. Perhaps this hesitation could be exploited, perhaps it was a weakness. Humanity had survived against impossible odds before, and Kale had no intention of letting this opportunity slip away. They landed on a flat plateau, hidden from direct view of the Queen's patrols. Kale quickly assessed their position. The craft could move again if necessary, but the squad needed rest and reconsolidation. He ordered a perimeter check, making sure no alien forces had followed them. The team moved with quiet efficiency, securing the area while Kale continued to study the craft. Late into the night, Kale considered the bigger picture. Humanity was on the brink of losing the frontier. Entire colonies had fallen to the Queen's forces, yet here they were, alive against all odds. He thought about the stories he had heard as a child, the tales of humans surviving when the world expected them to fail, the accounts of soldiers standing against overwhelming enemies and emerging victorious. That legacy was now his responsibility to uphold. The alien queen, meanwhile, observed from afar. She had followed Kale's escape but did not intervene directly. Instead, she studied him, fascinated by his unpredictability. Humans were usually straightforward, easy to anticipate, and quick to panic. Kale was neither. He acted with calm intelligence, adapting to changing circumstances in ways she could not immediately comprehend. It was remarkable, dangerous, and utterly human. The next morning, Kale made a decision. Retreat alone was not enough. If they were going to survive, they needed to strike back, even in a limited way. He gathered his squad and spoke quietly but firmly. "We don't just run, we create opportunities, we disrupt them. Every move they make can be turned against them if we think carefully and act decisively." Myra frowned. "You want us to attack?" Kale nodded. "In a limited way, hit their supply lines, sabotage their patrols, make them hesitate, give humanity a chance to regroup. And most importantly, make the Queen notice us." The squad followed Kale's instructions, moving swiftly and silently across the plateau. They set up small traps using abandoned alien equipment, improvised explosives, and clever camouflage. Kale directed them with precision, knowing exactly when to strike and when to retreat. Each success, each minor disruption bolstered their morale. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Kale's leadership transformed them from frightened survivors into a unit capable of defying expectations. In the distance, the alien queen watched. Each disruption was unexpected. Each human action was unpredictable. It was rare for a single human squad to survive for this long under her observation. Kale was proving that ordinary humans could, under the right circumstances, become extraordinary. That realization gnawed at her instincts. She had never encountered resistance like this, never seen courage and cunning combine in such a dangerous way. Kale led his squad to another abandoned alien supply depot. They scavenged what they could: energy cells, weapon components, and limited rations. Every item increased their chances of survival. Every discovery fueled their confidence. Kale felt a strange sense of purpose. Humanity had been pushed to the edge, but in adversity he found clarity. His actions were deliberate, thoughtful, and aimed at long-term survival, not just short-term gains. By the time night fell, Kale's squad had established a temporary base. They moved silently through the shadows, avoiding patrols and maintaining communication through hand signals and low-frequency signals undetectable to aliens. Kale took a moment to look at the stars, letting the weight of the universe settle around him. He knew the Queen's forces were vast, relentless, and seemingly unstoppable. Yet he also knew that humanity's greatest strength was not technology or numbers. It was ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to surrender. Myra approached him quietly. "Commander, she's still watching," she whispered. Kale nodded, acknowledging the truth. The Queen had noticed them, focused on them, and had chosen not to destroy them immediately. That was both terrifying and an opportunity. "Then we must make every move count," Kale replied. "She underestimates us. She thinks we are ordinary. That's our advantage." Over the next few days, Kale and his squad executed a series of daring raids. They sabotaged alien patrols, destroyed supply caches, and even intercepted communication signals, feeding misinformation into the Queen's intelligence network. Each success was small, but cumulatively, it disrupted the alien forces in ways no one had predicted. Kale's leadership inspired his soldiers. Fear was still present, but it was tempered with trust, discipline, and hope. Through it all, the alien queen remained an observer. She had grown increasingly fascinated by the human commander. He was ordinary in every measurable way, unaugmented, minimally armed, physically weaker than her soldiers. Yet he exhibited something rare, the ability to survive, adapt, and challenge expectation in ways that were impossible to predict. She sensed that his actions were deliberate, calculated, and fueled by an inner drive that transcended simple survival. Kale, aware of being watched, did not falter. He used it to his advantage, making deliberate movements designed to bait alien forces into traps. Each engagement was a learning opportunity, each encounter strengthening his squad and sharpening his understanding of the Queen's strategy. Humanity's resilience was on full display, not as brute force, but as intelligence, courage, and creativity. By the fourth night, Kale and his squad had disrupted multiple patrols and delayed the Queen's advance without suffering significant losses. They were exhausted, but alive. The temporary base they had constructed offered them some safety, but Kale knew it would not last forever. The Queen's curiosity was dangerous. She could strike at any moment, yet Kale felt a surge of pride. They had defied expectations, survived impossible odds, and proven that ordinary humans could indeed accomplish extraordinary feats. And in the darkness beyond the plateau, the alien queen considered the human commander once more. He was ordinary, yet his actions, his courage, and his ingenuity made him different. Perhaps, she thought, this human was worth watching closely. Perhaps the ordinary could become something more. The barren surface of Zythera Prime stretched endlessly under the dim glow of its twin suns. Kale Rin and his squad had moved from one abandoned plateau to another, constantly staying ahead of the alien queen's patrols. Each day had been a careful game of survival, avoid, observe, disrupt, and escape. Yet Kale knew that eventually, avoidance alone would no longer suffice. The queen was patient, relentless, and powerful. If they wanted to survive, they would have to confront her in some way. The squad had grown sharper, faster, and more confident under Kale's leadership. Every movement was deliberate, every action calculated. Even soldiers who had once trembled at the sight of alien weapons now moved with steady resolve. The human squad was no longer a group of frightened survivors. They were a cohesive unit capable of improvising, adapting, and striking with precision. Kale crouched behind a jagged outcrop of black rock, surveying the valley below. Several alien patrols were moving in formation, scanning the terrain systematically. "We can't go through the valley," Kale murmured. "Too exposed, but we can use the ridge to flank them." Myra Velen nodded. "And the Queen?" she asked, her voice tense. Kale's jaw tightened. "She's watching. That's exactly why we need to act smart. Her attention is on us. Let's make it count." Using the ridge as cover, Kale led his squad along a narrow path, careful not to trigger any alien sensors. He studied the patrol's movements, noting gaps and patterns, calculating the timing of every step. Even in the midst of fear, he remained focused. Ordinary humans might have panicked or hesitated, but Kale's mind thrived under pressure. As they moved, the squad set small traps along their path. Improvised explosives, false signals, and carefully positioned debris forced alien patrols into confusion. A single misstep caused an entire group to scatter, buying the humans precious time. Kale observed each reaction, adapting his strategy in real time. "Patience," he whispered. "Observe, wait, then act." Hours passed. The squad had managed to move across a large section of terrain without direct confrontation, but the Queen had not left their minds. From a distant ridge, Kale spotted her massive silhouette. She hovered above the battlefield, wings extended, exoskeleton gleaming. Her attention was locked on him. Kale felt a strange thrill, not fear exactly, but awareness. She had noticed him in a way no alien had before, and that meant every move he made mattered even more. Night fell and the humans took shelter in a shallow cave near the ridge. They were exhausted, but Kale could not rest. He studied the alien patrols through a small opening in the rock, calculating possible escape routes, potential ambush points, and vulnerabilities in the Queen's formations. Myra watched him silently, impressed by his focus. "Do you ever sleep?" she asked softly. Kale shook his head. "Not while she's watching. Every moment matters, every decision counts." As darkness deepened, the hum of alien engines and distant patrols became a rhythm Kale could anticipate. His squad moved quietly, using the cave as a staging point. They prepared for a small strike against an alien supply depot located on a ridge nearby. It was a risky operation. The depot was heavily guarded, but Kale knew that disruption was critical. The Queen's forces could be slowed, if only temporarily, and every disruption would increase the humans' chances of survival. When the time came, Kale led his team out of the cave. They moved silently over rocks and craters, staying low under the shadow of the plateau. The alien depot was within sight, and the squad could see the guards patrolling. Kale signaled Myra. "You take the left flank, I'll handle the right. Timing is everything." The squad split, moving with precise coordination. Kale approached the depot carefully, hiding behind a large boulder. He observed the guards' patterns, noting the timing of their patrols and the location of surveillance devices. With a quick hand signal, he directed one of his squad members to disable a perimeter sensor. The device flickered, then went dark. It was a small victory, but it mattered. Every moment of surprise counted. The squad struck swiftly. Explosives were placed, minor skirmishes ensued, and the alien guards were thrown into confusion. Kale moved with precision, taking advantage of every distraction, every misstep by the aliens. The depot's communications were disrupted, and a small cache of supplies was destroyed. The humans had achieved their objective, but the noise had drawn attention. The Queen was aware now, and she was approaching. From a distance, Kale saw the shadow of her wings against the horizon. The ground seemed to vibrate under her presence. The patrols were faltering, reacting to her arrival. The humans could not hide indefinitely. Confrontation was inevitable. Kale gathered his squad behind a ridge. "Stay calm, watch my lead. We fight smart, not reckless." The squad nodded, their confidence bolstered by their earlier success. The Queen descended onto the battlefield, landing with a force that shook the ground. Her massive eyes locked onto Kale, and for the first time her expression was unreadable. She had underestimated him before, perhaps, but now she realized this human was different. Ordinary in appearance, yes, but the way he commanded his squad, the way he disrupted her forces, it was unlike anything she had anticipated. Kale knew this was the moment that would define the engagement. He moved with his squad, using every bit of terrain for cover, every shadow for concealment. The Queen's minions advanced cautiously, unsure how to approach this human who had defied expectation. Kale's mind raced. He calculated angles of fire, timing for movement, escape routes, and contingency plans. Every detail mattered. Every decision could mean life or death. The squad engaged the alien patrols. Kale moved like a conductor, directing their actions, striking when the moment was right, retreating when necessary. The Queen watched, analyzing, learning. Every action Kale took was deliberate, intelligent, and designed to maximize disruption while minimizing risk. He was ordinary in rank and appearance, but extraordinary in execution. Explosions erupted around them, the air filled with the screech of alien weapons. Kale's squad fought with precision, striking hard, retreating quickly, and striking again. They were small in number, but they operated like a single organism, coordinated and disciplined. Every movement drew the Queen's attention closer, forcing her forces to react in ways that exposed weaknesses. Finally, the Queen herself intervened. Her massive frame moved forward, towering over the battlefield. She unleashed a wave of energy that forced the humans to dive for cover. Kale's squad scattered, using every tactical advantage available. Kale himself stood his ground for a moment, analyzing her movements. He had studied alien patterns, but nothing could fully predict the actions of a being like her. Ordinary, she thought, until now. Her mental voice carried a mixture of curiosity, calculation, and respect. Kale met her gaze, unflinching. He could feel the weight of her presence, but he did not yield. His mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and contingencies. He knew that sheer strength could not win this fight. Only wit, ingenuity, and timing could turn the tide. Kale's squad regrouped behind a ridge. "We've drawn her attention," he said. "Good, that's our advantage. Keep moving, stay unpredictable, and watch each other's backs. The Queen is learning, but we can still outthink her." Myra nodded, determination in her eyes. The squad moved as one, using the terrain to their advantage, drawing the alien forces into traps and ambushes carefully laid in advance. Hours of engagement passed. The humans were exhausted, yet they adapted to every challenge. They exploited every hesitation in the alien formations. every gap in patrol patterns, every distraction caused by Kale's calculated risks. Even the Queen's presence, terrifying and overwhelming, became something they could anticipate and work around. Humanity's resilience was on full display, not as brute force, but as intelligence, courage, and unyielding determination. By the end of the night, Kale and his squad had achieved the impossible. They had disrupted multiple alien patrols, forced the Queen's forces into disarray, and survived against overwhelming odds. They were battered, weary, and running low on supplies, but they were alive. More importantly, they had proven something vital. Humans could defy expectation, challenge even the most powerful alien forces, and survive when others would have fallen. The Queen hovered above the battlefield, observing. She had grown increasingly fascinated by Kale. He was ordinary, yet his actions were extraordinary. He adapted, survived, and defied prediction. He was not simply a human soldier. He was a force that could not be ignored. She realized that this small group of humans was no longer just prey. They were a threat, subtle but undeniable. Kale looked up at the distant shadow of her wings and felt a strange sense of purpose. The battle was far from over. The Queen was patient, but so was he. He had learned that survival required more than obedience or brute strength. It required intelligence, courage, and the ability to act decisively when the moment was right. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and Kale knew they could do it again. As dawn approached, the squad prepared for the next stage of their journey. Supplies were limited, but their determination was not. They would continue to disrupt, evade, and challenge the alien forces, buying time for humanity to regroup and counterattack. Kale's leadership had transformed them from ordinary soldiers into a unit capable of extraordinary feats. And in the distance, the alien Queen watched. The human commander was no longer merely ordinary. He was cunning, resilient, and unpredictable. She had underestimated him once, and she would not make that mistake again. Kale had survived impossible odds, disrupted her forces, and drawn her attention in ways no other human had. She would wait, observe, and learn. But she knew that one day their paths would cross again in a confrontation that could define the fate of countless worlds. The barren wastelands of Zythera Prime lay under a pale, cold light as Kale ran, and his squad moved cautiously across the cracked terrain. The battle had stretched their endurance to the limit. Days of careful maneuvers, ambushes, and sabotage had left them exhausted, yet alive. Each soldier knew they had survived impossible odds because of Kale's leadership, his foresight, and his courage. They were no longer ordinary soldiers. They were a unit honed by adversity. Kale paused atop a jagged ridge, surveying the valley below. Alien patrols scouted the area in patterns that were almost methodical. But tonight, there was something different in their behavior. The alien Queen was approaching. Her massive form glided silently above the terrain, wings casting immense shadows over the craters and ruined structures. Kale's chest tightened, not with fear but with awareness. This was the moment they had been building toward. Every action until now had prepared them for this confrontation. He signaled his squad to take cover behind rocks and shattered debris. The humans spread out, weapons ready, eyes alert. Myra Velen moved to his side, her face grim but determined. "Commander, she's closer than ever. Are we ready for this?" Kale's gaze stayed on the horizon. "We don't fight blindly, we fight smart. If she expects us to cower, we'll surprise her. That's our advantage." The Queen descended onto the battlefield with a force that shook the ground beneath them. Her enormous eyes locked onto Kale, and the air around her shimmered with alien energy. Even from this distance, the humans felt the oppressive presence of her power. Yet Kale stood steady, his mind analyzing every possible move, every reaction the Queen could make, and every opening they could exploit. Suddenly, alien patrols surged forward, their weapons trained on the human squad. Kale's hand signaled his team to split. "Hit the left flank," he shouted. "Draw them out!" The squad moved with precise coordination, executing Kale's plan flawlessly. Explosions rocked the ground, metal screeched and sparks flew, yet Kale's focus never wavered. Every strike, every retreat, every maneuver was calculated to maximize disruption while preserving the lives of his squad. The Queen observed, her attention fixed on Kale. She had underestimated him before, believing he was an ordinary human soldier like countless others she had crushed. But his actions defied expectation. He was deliberate, intelligent, and unpredictable. Her forces faltered because of him, confused by tactics that no ordinary human could execute under pressure. Kale was proving that courage and intelligence, combined, could rival sheer strength. Kale signaled a coordinated retreat toward a narrow canyon, leading the alien patrols into traps they had prepared earlier. Mines hidden beneath loose rocks detonated with precision, creating chaos among the ranks. Improvised energy disruptors disabled alien weapons temporarily, and Kale's squad exploited every moment of confusion. The humans were still outnumbered, but their strategy was working. Every minor victory bolstered their confidence, showing that ordinary humans could bend the rules of engagement in their favor. The Queen advanced herself, massive wings spreading wide, her voice resonating in the minds of all present. "You are different," she said, a mixture of curiosity and calculation in her tone. Kale met her gaze without hesitation. "Different how?" he demanded, his voice steady even against the mental pressure of her presence. Her eyes narrowed. "Ordinary until now," she replied. There was no anger, only fascination. She had observed humans before, studied them, crushed them. But Kale had survived, adapted, and defied prediction in ways she had not expected. This was not just survival. It was ingenuity, courage, and the human will to prevail. Kale led his squad through the canyon, using the tight walls to shield them from direct attacks. The Queen followed, massive limbs moving with deadly precision. Alien patrols swarmed around them, but the humans moved like a single organism, striking, retreating, and striking again. Kale's plan was not to fight them head-on. It was to exhaust, confuse, and manipulate the enemy. Every maneuver was calculated to draw the Queen's focus and expose vulnerabilities in her forces. Hours passed, and the humans' audacity began to pay off. The Queen's forces were divided, their formations broken by unpredictable human tactics. Kale's squad had learned to anticipate enemy movements, using terrain, shadows, and improvised technology to their advantage. The battlefield was a testament to human ingenuity, small numbers, smart strategy, and relentless determination against overwhelming odds. The Queen descended into the valley itself, her massive form landing with a thunderous impact. The ground shook, sending clouds of dust and debris into the air. She moved closer to Kale, studying his every action, analyzing his tactics in real time. He remained calm, directing his squad with precise gestures, striking quickly, retreating carefully, and exploiting every gap in her defenses. Kale realized this was the moment to take a decisive risk. He had calculated a path through the valley that would force the Queen's forces into disarray, leaving them temporarily vulnerable. "Follow me," he shouted, and the squad moved as one, racing toward the planned position. Explosives detonated behind them, forcing alien patrols to scatter. Kale's squad ducked behind boulders, then struck again, exploiting the confusion. The Queen's attention narrowed entirely on Kale. She unleashed a wave of energy, attempting to cut him down, but Kale had anticipated it. He rolled to cover, signaling his squad to hit the flanks simultaneously. The aliens reacted, but it was too late. Humans moved with precision, striking hard and retreating strategically. The Queen's forces faltered, showing cracks in their organization caused by Kale's ingenuity. Kale's heart pounded, but his mind remained sharp. This was more than survival, it was a demonstration of human capability. Ordinary soldiers could be extraordinary when guided by intelligence, courage, and unwavering determination. The Queen had underestimated them, and Kale intended to make her pay attention. With one final, calculated move, Kale directed his squad toward the heart of the alien formation. Improvised explosives, traps, and distractions created chaos. Alien soldiers were thrown into disarray, some retreating, some confused, and the Queen herself hesitated. Kale seized the moment, moving toward her with deliberate speed. His squad covered him, striking strategically to keep her attention divided. For the first time, Kale stood directly before the alien Queen. The enormity of her presence was overwhelming, yet he did not flinch. Her eyes studied him, analyzing, calculating, fascinated. She had never seen a human act with such precision, courage, and cunning. "You survive against impossible odds," she said, her voice both commanding and curious. "How?" Kale met her gaze steadily. "Because humans don't give up. We adapt, we think, we fight even when the odds are against us." The Queen's massive head tilted slightly. For centuries, she had dismissed humanity as weak. Yet here was proof that humans could defy expectation, challenge power, and survive when all seemed lost. The Supreme Commander's voice crackled over Kale's communicator. "All units prepare to retreat. The Queen is overwhelming." Kale glanced at his squad. They were battered, but their resolve was unshakable. "We are not retreating blindly," he said. "We move, yes, but we dictate how she reacts. Stay sharp. Every move counts." The Queen unleashed another wave of energy, shaking the ground, but Kale and his squad were ready. They dodged, countered, and struck strategically. The battlefield was a dance of precision and courage, humans against the might of a supreme alien force. Every action was calculated, every decision measured, and every movement aimed at survival and disruption. Minutes turned to hours. Exhaustion weighed heavily on the humans, yet they pressed on. Kale's leadership had transformed them from frightened survivors into a formidable unit capable of extraordinary feats. They had disrupted, outmaneuvered, and survived against overwhelming odds, proving that courage, intelligence, and determination could rival even the most powerful enemy. Finally, the Queen paused, studying Kale directly. "Perhaps humans are more formidable than I believed," she admitted. Her forces faltered, hesitation evident in their ranks. Kale seized the moment. With one final coordinated strike, his squad forced the alien forces to scatter temporarily, leaving the battlefield under human control, at least for now. Kale stood, bloodied but unbroken, before the alien queen. Her massive wings spread, creating a shadow that encompassed the battlefield. For a moment there was silence, humans and alien alike holding their breath. Then the queen lifted off, retreating to regroup, leaving humanity a temporary reprieve. Her voice resonated faintly in the minds of her forces. "Observe them, learn, do not underestimate." Kale's squad gathered around him, exhaustion and relief etched on their faces. Myra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Commander, we did it." "Against all odds," Kale nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. Humanity survives because we think, we adapt, and we never give up. Ordinary can be extraordinary if you refuse to surrender." As dawn broke over Zythera Prime, Kale and his squad prepared to continue their journey. Supplies were limited, wounds were healing, but the lesson was clear. Courage, intelligence, and resilience could overcome even the most impossible odds. Humanity had faced extinction before and emerged stronger. Today was another proof. The alien queen watched from the distance, wings folded, considering her next move. She had underestimated humans once. She would not again. But Kale had proven that even in the shadow of overwhelming power, ordinary humans could achieve the extraordinary. She would remember this human, Commander Kale Rin, and his squad of soldiers who defied fate itself. And as Kale led his squad away, across the craters and twisted ruins, he carried more than hope. He carried the knowledge that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology, numbers, or raw strength. It was their will, their mind, and their courage. They were ordinary until necessity made them extraordinary.